But at the end of class, when things are winding down, I always end my class by saying, this is your brain. This is your brain on Byron. Any questions? And I taught net broadcasting, and I taught lighting for video, and I taught fundamentals of video. And then in the spring semester, I taught the video fundamentals again, and I taught a class called visual storytelling and a news class. And now this semester, I'm once again teaching fundamentals of video, and I'm also teaching a class called digital capturing and streaming. And who knows, maybe next fall they'll ask me to teach something new again. I stress 3 things to my students, and I tell them this every class. I stress planning, I stress visualization, and I stress storytelling. If they can do those 3 things, then they've done a lot. The rest is just pushing buttons. I was born in a little town in western Maryland called Frederick. Frederick, Maryland is where I'm from. I'm from Civil War country. My hometown of Frederick is within 25 miles of Gettysburg, Antietam, and Harper's Ferry, and maybe an hour from Manassas. And actually, Frederick is the town was occupied by the Confederates twice, and in the first occupation before the Battle of Antietam, when the Confederates were marching through Frederick, this old lady named Barbara Fritchie was waving an American flag, and they were going to shoot her. And she's famous for saying, "Shoot if you must, this old gray head, but save the nation's flag." And I think Longstreet, General Longstreet, came trotting up on his horse and said, "She's an old lady, it's not worth it, don't shoot her." And Frederick is also where George Gordon Meade, who is the commanding general of the Union Army at Gettysburg, got his command the day before the Battle of Gettysburg. In case you couldn't tell, I'm kind of a Civil War buff. Well, that's a long and sordid story. I started college at the University of Maryland in College Park, and then I dropped out and I moved to Chicago. And then I worked for 8 or 9 months in Chicago, and then I picked up school again at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, which is where I got my BFA in, I'm not going to say what year. And then after that, I went to graduate school. I was fortunate enough to be accepted at graduate school at Yale University. And so I have my Master's of Fine Arts from Yale. And so after I graduated from the Art Institute in Chicago, then I moved to New Haven, Connecticut. And that's where I got my MFA. And then I moved, after that, I met a woman. And and she was from Philadelphia. So I moved down to Philadelphia to be near her, and I went living there for over 13 years. Well, I had my MFA, I have my master's, and there's 2 things. One, you need at least a master's level to teach college. And my MFA is what they call a terminal degree, which means it's in a field that you are actually practicing in. It's not studying, it's doing. And so an MFA is considered a terminal degree. You can't go any further than that. And so that qualified me to become a college professor. And in the back of my mind, I had always had that in mind. I never wanted to teach high school or elementary school, but I did look forward to teaching college. I had this opportunity, and the interesting thing is even though I have art degrees, I do not teach art. I do not consider my video art. I don't consider myself an art teacher. And I make no bones or apologies about that, because they're just two different things. And that's not to say one is better, one's worse. It's only to say that they're different. My house, I make sculpture, I do painting. The arts are near and dear to me, and I have a passion for the arts, and that's why I'm doing a documentary on the Dada movement. The Dada movement established, I would say it established the critique by which all modern culture is judged today. And yet you don't know that. But you're not alone. Nobody, very few people do know that. And that's what's curious about it, interesting, and makes it a good subject for a documentary. But it's about the arts. It's about the modern world becoming modern. And I have this, this general theory that everything that happened, everything that we know and take for granted today about life and culture and our beliefs and our value systems is a result of what happened between the late 1800s up through World War I, the early maybe 1920s, and everything else then is a digestion of that. And you want to be able to learn a skill. And the interesting thing about all this in my head is that when you do all these things, when you tackle all these tasks, when you take on all these things, you learn how to think you learn how to think critically, and you learn how to think ahead. And when you learn how to think critically, and when you learn how to think ahead, and when you learn how to visualize things ahead of time, this translates into any number of occupations that you could be doing. This is not just video. These disciplines can apply to just about anything you do. But at the end of class, when things are winding down, I always end my class by saying, this is your brain on Byron. Any questions?